Welcome to Big Ideas Little Table. I'm Peter.
I'm Chris.
And today our segment is on, should we bring this back?
Okay.
MicroMachine style. So in this case, I know it's already brought back.
Mm-hmm.
So should it have been brought back? So let's talk a little bit about MicroMachines. What are MicroMachines?
Itty bitty teeny tiny little cars.
Yeah. And it was awesome.
It was so cool.
They're like my favorite toy.
It's so many stupid ones, and then you step on them and you break them, and oh god, they were like Legos. Where in the Legos you step on and you hurt yourself, but these ones would roll out from under you. I believe Home Alone.
I was just gonna say,
Home
I was
Alone.
like, they were so. It was like such a widely known thing that they put it in Home Alone. They had to put like, I don't know, we got to have someone stepping on these little pieces of crap because they hurt so much. That's how bad it was. In fact, that was a big marketing thing for them too.
We're making little tiny pieces of crap. Buy it. Fantastic marketing.
Yeah, that's so funny. I don't know what hurt more, like stepping on the microMachines or him like slamming his bare feet on those ornaments. Anyway, so MicroMachines, if you don't know, was a company started in the 80s. I think it was like mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was just telling Chris, their whole brand, this company Galoob started them.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole idea was like, hey, we got to steal market share from Hot Wheels and Matchbox. Like we got to take these guys on. So they came up with, Matchbox and Hot Wheels had cars about this size. Their idea was to have cars about this size. Like it's such a rudimentary thought process. Like, hey, kids like cars, right?
What if they're smaller?
Chris, baby, I got a perfect idea for you. We take the regular car, we make it about quarter the size.
Well, and as we all know, every company that started to be a company of assholes is done well. What's our business plan? Steal money from this other company. Oh,
To the moon.
this guy, he's going places.
It's so funny. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it because I imagine it costs a lot less to make a car this big than it does one that's 2-3 times larger. So they're already theoretically saving money.
I guess
just on materials.
Yeah.
And they were cheap cars too. It's not like they were metal. I remember a lot of plastic in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of plastic pieces.
Although the little axles were metal, because I remember a number of them that would get like bent and then the wheels wouldn't turn correctly, and then you'd be like.
So anyway, this company starts in the 80s, does tremendously well in the early 90s, takes a lot of market share from Matchbox and Hot Wheels.
Screw you, Hot Wheels. I'm just kidding.
I just read.
I have nothing to say.
Hot Wheels is like, I don't know who this Chris guy is, but I want him in my office. Dead or alive. Actually, no, alive, because I would get sued massively if he was dead.
That's okay.
So anyway, I think 3 to 4 years, they were the hottest selling toy car in the U.S., which is insane in a market where you have Hot Wheels and Matchbox.
Mm-hmm.
So they shot to the moon all the way through the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get bought out by Hasbro, the big show. And there's a $220 million deal in 1998. They get bought out. And then it's just, I don't know what happened. If it was just the market turning, maybe interest in it. For whatever reason, they ended up discontinuing the basic MicroMachine platform.
Does Hasbro own Hot Wheels?
They did last time I checked.
So
unless they sold it.
They were bought out by their competition and then just crushed?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Which is kind of a way to do it, except I don't know if they planned on crushing them.
Oh.
They may have planned like, hey, let's see what we can get out of this. And then when they realize like, well, we're just burning money, like screw it. We already do cars.
Well, I want to know from the point of view of the people who buy it out, is there some level of like negativity? Like they're not going to try hard to make this product work. They're like, yeah, we're going to buy it because it's making money, but it's like, but we already hated them, so we're like going to put the B class, engineers on this one, where it's like, it's like, oh wow, look at this company sucks.
They're the ones who made the wheels that bend up like this.
See,
so that's where it all started. Before they had wheels that stayed straight,
sturdy as all get out.
I would say probably. I think they wanted it to succeed because after it was basically discontinued in early 2000s, there were several revivals. So that's why I think they wanted it to succeed, because if they wanted it to die, they just would have left it to die.
It and be like, done.
They wouldn't have kept bringing it back. It's kind of like you're dating a girl and then she breaks up with you. You're not going to keep going back to her if you don't want it to work.
Some people do.
Some people do.
Definition of a toxic relationship.
But this goes to show that you probably shouldn't. So they had another revival. They had a couple of revivals. In 2006, they had like a Star Wars venture that they were making little Star Wars figures.
Always got to get on that Star Wars.
Which I think I was in high school. No, I was just out of high school at that time. So, obviously wasn't playing with MicroMachines.
Okay. We don't.
Contrary to what my wife may say.
We don't need to have the judgment in the tone. Some of us may still have been playing with MicroMachines. Okay.
And then they've had a revival in 2020. Apparently 2 years ago.
Sure.
They brought it back. And this is like the basic kit. The Van City, the hot rods, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So my question to you, should they have brought it back? Is this a good enough idea? Or should it have just been a part of a childhood that remained there?
I'm going to tell you that I'm going to be very split and almost against myself in this one. There's two sides of me to this. One being the 90s nostalgia kid who loved MicroMachines. Even when the wheels bent, I would sit there trying to bend them back. And then when they came out with the ones that you press down and the headlights light up, do you remember those ones?
Yeah.
Those were super kick-ass too. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I think I still have some somewhere, or my kids are stepping on them for the next generation. That's the point. Sometimes I leave toys out for my kids to step on, just to reverse roles.
Full circle.
Just to reverse roles.
You got to keep them on their toes.
I'm like, get out of bed. Surprise! There's a bunch of toys on the ground.
It's actually not a bad parenting strategy. Like, you know how you never want to be like your parents?
Sure.
All of a sudden your kids are like, I never want to be like my dad. I'm never going to leave toys on the ground. This will never happen.
I'm not going to, I feel like that's going to get away from you. They're like, oh, well, you like leaving messes in the bathroom, huh? Well, I just took a dump in your bedroom. How do you feel about that?
All of a sudden it's full on war in your house. People poop in the bed, cars all over the place.
This has mayhem, absolute mayhem. No.
Your wife leaves you. I just can't live in this.
This is disaster. What is wrong with you? No. So yes, the 90s part of me, back to the topic at hand and moving away from defecating in beds and floors.
People really seem to like it with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They were all about the defecating in beds and places. So.
Yeah.
Really, I'm just trying to generate interest here. I saw that it was popular. I'm like, hey.
Way to be topical.
Before we started, I was like, can we do a little banter on defecation? I hear the people really like it.
MicroMachines is what we're talking about. MicroMachines. Need I remind you, sir?
Okay.
So yes, I'm torn in the fact that I did love MicroMachines. I still have some, and they were so cool. But on the flip side of things, a lot of times they do this thing where they just keep trying to bring back stuff because the people who were children at the time and enjoyed certain things are like, let's get back to the good old days. And I feel like every single generation does that because every single generation, once they reach like, I would say middle adulthood, like in their 30s, they just sit around and go, God, it was so much better when I was a kid. And you can go back through every single decade and every like generation will be like, when I was a kid, everything was so great. Whatever. Like now we're fetishizing the 90s, but I mean, everybody talked about how cool the 80s were with like, all the music, the rock and roll music and everything. And before that, everyone was like, oh, the 70s with like, oh, peace and love and all this stuff. It's like every single decade, people will like fetishize or view with rose-colored goggles, like how great it was. And so I don't know that there necessarily should be trying to bring back the MicroMachines.
So you think it's better left in the 90s?
Thumbs
up or thumbs down?
As sad as the 90s kid in me
Let's see it, Caesar. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I have to do the like.
You got to do the.
I'm going to say, yeah. I'm gonna say it's
thumbs down.
Don't quit trying to bring it back. Just let it be where it is.
Oh, Beatles style.
Yeah.
Time to let it be.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you on this one. It was such a fun thing. It was great. It was great for the time.
Mm-hmm.
But besides, I agree with all the stuff you just said. And on top of that...
I'm very intelligent.
So maybe Iron Man is still in the mix.
Yes!
On top of that, it was never a good idea to introduce small choking hazards to kids. So that's kind of where I'm like, was this a good idea? Did we think this through? Like,
what do little kids do? Put things in their mouth. Give them smaller toys.
Perfect. No. We'll just put an age limit on it because kids know they only play with toys if they're that age or above.
And children don't ever have siblings of any kind. That's not a thing. There's never a younger child around.
I know, that's what I've learned. I'm like, why even have, like, why do we need this thing that says like 3 and up, 4 and up? I'm like, No, it's just standard precautions here. It should just be like everything's a choking hazard. Like, just anticipate. Like,
if it's this small, no matter what it is.
yeah, exactly. Like, I would choke on that. We don't need ages. This shouldn't be a kid's thing. So there's logic. There's the nostalgia. It was a fun time. It should have stayed in the past. I'm going to
Thumbs down.
give thumbs down for MicroMachines.
Yeah.
What about MacroMachines? Did we ever think about that?
Here's a car that's larger than a normal car because that's too much too much material to.
Yeah.
You can't buy it as a.
It's probably more expensive, but I think that would be cooler because when I was a kid, I loved the detail in the cars,
Sure.
like to see inside and the doors opening and stuff. If you just had a bigger version of that, which I guess they do, so maybe they're like, oh, that market's already taken. Our only market share is smaller nano machines.
Itty bitty. They did come out with. Do you remember they had ones that opened up and there was a smaller
Yes,
one?
they did. So I guess they already took that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot.
Well, I feel like if you did macro machines, as in like take a, I don't know, minivan and make it 3 times larger, it would have to be like an amusement park because then you could like walk through this massive vehicle. It would just be a structure that you could climb through it.
Would be interesting. What about Russian nesting doll machines? So like you said, they had the car that you open up and there's a little car in it.
Mm-hmm.
We keep going. A car that opens up to a car that opens up to a car that opens up
To the
to
point
a helicopter. This tiny, like
To the point where, I mean, how small are we getting here? Because I feel like it already went down to like, I mean, you're talking choking hazard. That's not even a choking hazard because you're going to swallow that. It's fine.
exactly. Yeah, it passes right through you. So we bypass the choking hazard. We've effectively made it null.
At this point, even if you inhaled it straight into your lungs, it's so small, it would be fine.
Can you imagine? You're 45, going to the doctor, like, oh, we're just going to do a standard chest x-ray. Don't worry. It appears, looks like you have a helicopter in your right lung.
Tiny helicopter.
But doesn't seem to be bothering you, so we're going to discharge you home.
All right, everything's fine, sweetheart. I just have a helicopter in my lung. What?
That's hilarious. So yeah, Micro Machines needs to stay in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go check the store to see what they look like, but
We're going to get there and we're going to be like, oh my God, make more of these.
I need it. Yeah, I know. Maybe it'll change our minds. But that's 2 no's for Micro Machines. Something that should have been left in the past in the 90s. Don't need to bring it back.
It's very sad.
On to the next one. We'll see you next week.